Hi, my love. Welcome to the Gemma Hanley podcast. My name is Gemma. I'm your host. This is the space where I have honest conversations about overcoming anxiety and overwhelm so that you can calm your nervous system and feel really confident and happy and calm from within yourself. Along the way, I share my own stories of holistically healing 23 years of anxiety and depression myself. And so if you're a woman seeking answers to perfectionism, people-pleasing, burnout, resistance, you may love, you're in the right place. Let's do it. Let's begin. And before we begin, I want to pay my respects and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which I am recording from, which is the Gubbi Gubbi tribe. And I want to extend that acknowledgement to their elders, past, present, and emerging, as well as anybody of Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander heritage watching this replay. Hey, my love, and welcome back to the potty. I am very, 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 very freaking excited for today's guest. She's a very, very special woman in my life. Please meet Gillian G, as I speak about her, and we'll probably reference her in this episode. G is a multifaceted facilitator, healer, trauma-informed coach, and international speaker. She's also the founder and CEO of Maiden. Maiden creates experiences that evoke transformation, awaken people's innate wisdom, and connect them back to their purpose. She has spent thousands of hours studying both Eastern and Western modalities, and G weaves her diverse range of skills and knowledge into deeply healing and transformative experiences, of which I've been on the receiving end of. So special.
Such an honor.
As a survivor and now thriver of domestic violence and being hit by a car, G suffered a range of stress and trauma-related health issues after healing and transforming her own life. She is now on a mission to help others do the same. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. It's such an honor to be here with you and to connect with you and your community. And, you know, I'm a big fan and I love you. So I'm really excited to be here today to speak a little bit about what I do.
Yeah. It's been a little while coming and it feels so good to have you here. When we turned on the Zoom screen, my first reaction was like, oh, I wish we were doing this in person.
I know. It would be so good if you're doing this. We should have saved it for Bali.
Well, there might be a part two.
Part two, yeah.
So whenever I bring a guest into this space, I love to open by sharing how we met. So we'll start there, which I had to have a little think about this because I feel like we met, I don't know why, but like Facebook Messenger pops up in my head. I feel like we found ourselves in a group chat and realized that we were basically, it's funny, I used this word on social media when I was in Melbourne at your place. I said we were neighbours and I'm like, oh, to me we were neighbours, but that could be misleading to others. Like we didn't live side by side, but we lived in suburbs that were side by side and really close in Melbourne in Elwood and Balaclava. Yep. Is that the name of your suburb?
St Kilda
East. Yeah.
Right. I live on Balaclava Road. So
yeah. And so we just like connected instantly, went deep instantly, super challenging time of life during lockdowns. I remember the first time we hung out, you like turned up on your bike and we went down the beach. And then, the beach really became quite a ritual for us, closing our work days and watching sunsets. And oh my gosh.
I know.
Oh, memory just popped into my head about the beach.
The burgers.
So, gee, when I was packing up my house before, so I put everything in storage, packed my car, like every inch available. And actually, fuck, you were phenomenal. You totally led that. Like I was so overwhelmed and you were like, we're going to put this here and then this will fit here and then this has got to go here. And then I kept that packing format for like the whole 2 or 3 months every time I would arrive somewhere because I knew, I'm like, it goes back in this Tetris way. But then never again, I've said this over and over again, but never again will I do an exit clean myself. You came and spent what I thought, I'm such an optimist. I was like, yeah, like it'll just be a few hours to clean my apartment. So I think it was 6 hours later and we were still just like, what is going on? And so I took us down the beach for lunch and bought us burgers. And then this wind, like this massive storm started coming and I was like, nah, babe, like we've got to go sit in the car. And G was like, no, like I think it's going to be fine. Next minute, there was like the sand was whipping at me. Our burgers were full of sand. And like, I was just like trying to get back to the car. This massive storm came in. I don't even think it was raining necessarily, but
it was just wind. And I've not eaten a burger since then because every time I like look at one, I just think of the texture of sand.
So bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. We had to go back and get a second lunch, which didn't impress me at all.
But we needed that day.
So anyway, there's a little intro into how we know each other and have just become fast friends. She is one of my closest girlfriends. And, I didn't tell you I would share this part, but I also love sharing, what I see in my guests when I have a personal relationship with them as well. And one of the things I just feel and see in you so much is you love so intentionally. Like, I never feel like it's coincidental or you're winging it or like it's just happened. I feel like you're so intentional in the way that you love, and it's such a beautiful quality. And the other thing that stands out to me about you is just your dedication and resilience to continuously showing up to your truth and what is right for you, even though it's not the common path, and it's often misunderstood. And I know firsthand how challenging that can be, and it's so beautiful to watch and see you in. So,
thank you. It's not very often I'm speechless, but that is just the best compliment I've had, and thank you. And that is the thing that I treasure about you is your ability to be deep and to really see people. And the first time we met, our relationship, we had so much depth, and I just treasure that in you and the person that you are. And I feel so blessed to have you in my life in all capacities, so thank you. I'm so taken back by that.
Yeah, very, very grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's dive in to this conversation. So we're definitely here to talk about the energetics of healing and then kind of wherever we go. And so I'm going to ask you some questions and see where it takes us. I feel like, amazing. I feel like a brilliant first question, especially for the listeners, would be, when we say, or when you, not we, when you talk about the energetics of healing, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I think it's a perfect place for us to start, is that when we think about healing, we think about healing the mind or healing the body. We don't necessarily think of what is the energy of our life. And ultimately, our physical form, our mind, everything is just energy and it's moving. And so we have these energetic bodies. Our energetic field goes 1.8 meters from your sternum, and that's something that science references, and we know that. And so we don't think about our energy bodies, so our physical body and our energetic bodies, and this comes from Vedic tradition. And then also we don't understand ourselves, a lot of people, about the energy of our life experience. And so for me, I don't necessarily believe in good or bad. Everything is just moving or it's not moving. And if it's not moving, then we need to integrate that so that it becomes moving again, because we are an energy body. We are these souls having this human experience, and even our physical form is a form of energy.
Yeah. And so how would someone know energy is, and I think you used the language just then of moving or not moving?
Yeah.
What are some of the signs?
So say if you've got like physical pain, so you've got tension in your body, you've got somewhere where you're like, oh, what is that? Like muscle contraction, right? That is bound energy. If you go to an organal perspective, you might have, IBS. Other dietary kind of issues are all symptoms of bound energy, headaches. When people are storing things like anger, they tend to get a restriction in the jaw. And that is because energy is not free flowing, and then it contracts and it tightens. And so the physical body then tightens as well, from like a skin, muscular, fascial tissue, and organs. So we all have this contraction when things aren't moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about when they are?
When they are, that's where we have that spaciousness, that freedom. People who might have an embodied practice or a yoga practice or some kind of movement in which you're elongating and stretching muscles, that release and that freedom, that's how you feel when energy is moving. And, there is a Vedic philosophy that we're either in karma or we're in kriya. And if we're in karma, the world is kind of responding to us. Whereas if we're in kriya, we're in that state of flow, where we're part of that kind of universal flow of the universe. And we are humans, and so we do have this spectrum of life. So we are always swinging between both kind of polarities. But the more you release and work with your energy bodies, the more you're able to be in that state of flow.
Yeah.
And you're able to regulate that stagnation, and things that will cause stagnation is any kind of repression of an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be emotion, memories, beliefs, when they become stored, and that energy, the energy of that, it then becomes trapped in the body. So our body holds everything. And so that's when we start to get that contraction, restriction.
Yeah, and flow was one of the words that came into my mind when I was listening to you speak then, because I think most of us will have at least some form of reference point to that, but a lot of us will know that sharp contrast of, when we feel like we are in flow and things are just happening, and movement is another great word as well, or when that is not. And I know from a lot of the women that I speak to and that I work with as clients, one of the things that they can become really rigid around or fixated around is, okay, how do I keep this, and how do I make sure this flow continues, and where did it go, and how do I get it back? And can you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is like, once again, there is this belief that we're in one state that is constantly fixed. And I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that we constantly swing between these states, and it's a process of when we're like, when we get stuck and we're like, where did that flow go? It's actually connecting back into the body, connecting into what's going on and what's blocking me. Why can't I access flow? Where am I feeling tension? And bringing awareness to that. And then when we start to go into that and into, once again, the energy of it, we can work with releasing it and getting back into that state of flow. And also, I think that another part of that is like, we can only be in that state when we're giving our bodies what they truly need.
Yeah. What's an example of that?
So for instance, I'll speak to my morning routine. My morning routine is never the same, ever. And this does my little A-type head in, right? And that is because first thing in the morning, I have to get up and ask my body, what does she need so she can do the best for me that day, so that I can have moments where I am in that flow, and then my morning routine is to give her what she needs, whether that be pleasure, movement, dance, massage, a swim, a walk. And it's not until I give her what she needs. And that can also sometimes just be orange juice or water. And I'm not here to judge what my body needs. I'm like, okay, you need that.
Yeah.
And when you start to tap into that and you honor the needs of your body, you start to build this trust, and then you do enter this state of rhythm, flow, movement. And from a productivity perspective, I can get a few days work done in a few hours when I'm in that space. Or I could spend a whole day pushing something up a hill and being frustrated and like, why is it not working? And, you know, that real like concrete block that we tend to get into that space. Or like you can take a step back and say, actually, what do I need in this moment and how can I honor that? And that's when we start to move from that like rigid restriction kind of place into that flow creation movement, because we're just one with everything. This idea that we're disconnected isn't true, right? And so it's how can I actually reconnect to that flow?
Yeah. Two of the most powerful questions I believe we can ask ourselves. And, you know, when I started doing this, my entire life changed. And what it calls from us is one, trust, but also it's a practice. It's practicing and remembering, oh, there's a body here filled with intelligence and wisdom that I can connect to. I actually don't have to have it all figured out. I actually don't need to plan ahead. And yeah, being able to trust the moment, trust what you feel, and continuously almost like exercising that muscle of going inward and asking like, what am I being shown? What am I feeling? What is it that I need? And practicing, you know, as an extension of that, validating what it is that you hear, even if it's not the picture society would paint for you, or it's not a tick box, or it doesn't fit into, you know, you mentioned that it leads to insane, phenomenal flow of productivity, but it often doesn't seem like a productive choice to begin with.
No, and you have to do a lot of like reprogramming to allow yourself to be in this space. And when I went from my corporate role where it was like, you know, you will work from A into B and you will have to do this in this amount of time. And it was a creative role. So I was expected to think creatively. And it actually blows my mind for how I actually created anything in that time compared to what I do now. And it is like going back to what you were saying about it is a muscle, right? And so you don't go to the gym and then just expect to have an amazing defined body and, you know, biceps. It's something that because we're not taught how to cultivate this way of being, we have to relearn it. And so it is a process of like just checking in with a little bit of like, actually, what is my body feeling right now? And great way to start is like, am I feeling tight or does this feel expansive? You know, and why could it be like that? And it is, and it does like, I like the analogy of sometimes you have to light yourself on fire and like allow who you think you are and who you think your ways of being are to actually allow who you truly are to be born. Because this way of being is very different from what we are role modeled to us as like to call the kind of norm, whatever that is, but it's not what a lot of people would know.
Yeah. Not what most of us are taught.
No. And I think it's really interesting. I actually had this conversation with clients yesterday about like, when did you stop trusting the wisdom of your body? Right? And it's such an interesting conversation and like point of inquiry to start as women, because we have this fantastic intuition, right? Like we always know there will be that tightness that, oh, this doesn't quite feel right. But then because we're not taught to embody that and trust that, we go against it. And they're the moments when like things go wrong or we're like, bad things happen and it's like, shit, I should have just trusted myself. And I think that we need to relearn that as a mass.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the reasons for that and having a corporate background as well is that if you can't churn out a report or if you can't provide the data and the facts on paper as to why something feels off or why you're sensing that it's a no or it's a yes, I have to go in this direction, it really is discounted. And there's this fear that I think is not even just from within ourselves, but has been passed down as well of, oh, I'm going to be called crazy. I'm going to be discarded. I'm going to be, put in this category where I'm judged and my ability to make a decision or to bring value is questioned, and that doesn't feel safe.
Absolutely, it doesn't feel safe. And I also think that, like, as women, we should look at, like, when we think that when we're born, we come in as this beautiful soul that has this blank slate, right? And because we haven't experienced life yet. And that's not true. We actually come in with DNA that's embedded with intergenerational trauma experiences that are passed down from our lineages, but then are also passed down from the collective experience. And so as women, we have this like eons and decades of like, it's not safe to actually trust us. We were burnt, most women have trouble opening their throat chakra because to speak was to be dangerous. It would be dangerous. And so we carry that with us. And then we go into these corporate roles and these ways of life where we're fighting that battle of how to speak, of how to trust our innate truth. And it's a real shame for everybody. Like the whole world misses out from that, not just us as women, because there are so many amazing things. And even when you know that you trust this, sometimes it's still hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I was looking at going to Bali earlier in the year, and one of my friends wanted me to go to this specific event with her. And I just kept looking at it and I was like, I actually can't buy a ticket to this. Something's not right. And I didn't. And it ended up that thing was completely cancelled. And that's just a small example of just not something feeling right, but it not making sense as to why it didn't feel right, but trusting that knowing of I'm just going to hold back and wait.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the little subtle things that when we start to connect back to that innate wisdom, our innate potential, we miss out when we don't have that connection.
Yeah, and something we can be playful with to begin with. Like it doesn't have to be this big, burdensome, scary, unknown thing. At times in my life where I felt that I've disconnected from my inner knowing and that intuition and that gut feeling, I'll even start with just, often intuitively order food, where I'll go and sit in a cafe and like allow the thing to stand out at me without me logically trying to look through and think about what I feel like. And yeah, it's fun. It's very cool.
And I think that's such a great way and a good point to bring is that like have fun with it. Mm-hmm. Everything in life has to be this like serious thing where I'm like, I have to connect with my intuition and like allow that to guide me. And like sometimes that I think there is a tendency for things to be too serious, but when you have fun with it, you can be like, oh, what does my heart want today? Or like, what does my vulva want? Like, I actually want to wear that dress and not that. And, and like allow yourself to have that curiosity, that play. So then it becomes something that you actually look forward to doing.
Yeah. Yes.
It's not like another task on your list.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gee, where I want to go next, and you've referenced your corporate background a little bit, but I'd love for you to share with us a little bit around how do you find yourself here offering this to the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I cannot believe what I do now. So I started off, when I was 17, a single mum. I left a domestic violence relationship and I instinctively knew that what had happened to me happened for a reason. I just didn't know what that reason was at the time. And I then also knew that I needed to provide a better life for my daughter than what I saw. So I went back and did year 11 and 12. Then I went to university and did something that I was interested in, which was interior architecture. But the whole time I was really sick. I was suffering depression, anxiety, stress-related illnesses, you name it, I've had it. I've had all my wisdom teeth removed. I've had my tonsils removed, so many stomach, liver issues because I was really sick, because I went through really significant trauma. I'm lucky to be alive. But more than that, I then lived with the impact of that trauma for 13 to 15 years. So because I got so sick, it just got to the point where I couldn't, go on anymore. So I started looking at my life holistically. And actually I was hit by a car. That's the thing that stopped me. So there's nothing like a car crash to stop you in your tracks and the universe to be like, right, stop, young lady. You need to look at your life.
Yeah.
And so to be really,
do it.
Yeah, that'll definitely do it, right? If that's not going to do it, I don't know what will. But I was miserable. I was like suppressing things. I was drinking a lot of alcohol, ignoring my body. And as rehab, my doctor was like, you need to start doing yoga. And so I did yoga and I was like, wow, what is this stillness? What is this connection to my body? And then I was doing like more traditional therapies along the way. And really then I started falling in love with the stillness and how amazing life can be when you actually connect back to your body in that sense of calm. And so before I knew it, I was in Bali doing my first yoga teacher training. Then a few months later, I was in India. So I started to like really redevelop this connection with both spiritual practices and my body.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started becoming really curious about what my why was and how I wanted to serve humanity. And I knew that that was kind of connected to what had happened to me when I was young and my experience as a survivor, now thriver of domestic violence. And so it's really been a process of me like understanding what it takes to heal on multi-layers. So to heal your mind, to heal your body, and to heal your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the process that I went through. At first, I was in traditional talk therapy, and that kind of only gets you so far. I think it's a good part of the process, but it will only get you so far, right? And then there was working with the body, and I realized actually how much stuff was stored within my body. So I started doing more emotion-focused stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the time I'm working out my why. And then I added the energy work in, and that was the game changer because that really connected to how the trauma was stored in my body and the repressed emotions like anger, sadness, grief that are all valid and that all had rights to be there. I just hadn't integrated them. And so I wanted to then help others do the same because everybody has this profound potential to completely transform their lives. And it's not like searching outside of you.
No.
Really connecting to what's in you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's such an honor. I was going to swear then, but I was like, no.
So welcome. Don't make this the first swear-free potty.
Okay, it's such a fucking honor.
Fuck it up.
Okay, it's such an honor to like help people move through the layers of stuff that's keeping them disconnected from their own innate truth and potential, and like seeing the transformations of women who go from like anxious, overwhelmed, suffering insomnia, like not knowing what they're doing in life to completely regaining control of their life is amazing.
Yeah. That moment it just clicks for a woman and they understand that it is there for them and it is there speaking to them. And it's such, I often use the language of a useful tool and communication system, but yeah, like the wisdom, the intelligence of the body, it's not there by mistake. It's not there against you. It's not there to hold you back. It's there to show you the path forward and to, like the car for you. Yeah. And literally being stopped. Yeah. It's the same with painful emotions and physical symptoms that can be really debilitating. And this is very true for me. It is there intentionally asking us to stop and discover the truth and the epitome and the highest potential of who we are. And that is a fucking phenomenal gift.
It's one of the greatest gifts, right? Because and there is that tendency to lean away from, because it's painful and but then it stays there. But when we lean towards and we actually really take ownership of the things that matter for us, right? Actually, I'm feeling violated right now and this wasn't okay. And that wasn't okay to be treated like that. I'm going to process that and then know that that's not okay for me moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is just such a beautiful, beautiful gift. It's
so powerful.
Oh, it's so powerful. And I think you and I, while the scenarios were slightly different, they do have that common thread of like illness and overcoming, these things that were making us really sick to work out what is actually really important to us and how we want to be of service.
I couldn't agree more. And it was actually so nice just listening to that back as well. One thread I just want to pull out of that was you said, the talk therapy, the emotions, and then energetics. And, if I, knowing you, was to trace this back, I imagine what you're speaking to here is spinal energetics. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely spinal energetics, and also the way that like energetics are stored in the body. So the way that I'll speak to that, and then I'll speak to spinal energetics after that. So the way that like energetically your life experience is stored in your body, like that emotion that you haven't processed, that memory that you haven't been able to fully complete the cycle that needs to go through. Even trauma, like the misconception that trauma is this external event or experience, which isn't the case. Trauma is actually the way your body responds to that. And so there is an energetic and a physical imprint that's created. And so all of that, once again, going back to what I said at the start of the potty, is that it's like either an energy that's moving and has been completed, or it's that contraction, and that contraction's what is making you sick. So there's like that part of it that I like work with my clients to go into that. There's also like the energetics of the world and how you can then like connect to that, and as women connect to the power of your Shakti energy that is innately within all of us. And then there is the spinal energetics, and essentially that is the movement of the stagnant emotions, memories, and trauma from your body. And it's looking at it. We work with similar principles to that are in Vedic culture. So we look at the koshas. So there's a physical, a mental, an emotional, a spiritual, and a soul body. And each of those bodies, energies, essentially is either moving or it's not moving. And if it's not moving, we're connecting to what is bound to become unbound. And that relieves stuff like headaches, insomnia, irritable bowel, like physical tension, depression, anxiety. It closes trauma imprints, because a lot of the time our body doesn't want to hold on to this, right? Our body's like, we've had this experience, and if it's something that has, imprinted, let's say a high intensity emotion like anger, that's moving at a really quick rate. And so your body is housing that. And so it's nearly working overtime.
Yeah.
Right? It's so unnecessary. And we look at things like chronic fatigue that are exhaustion because the body is consistently on.
Yeah.
Like, when does it get to
fucking sympathetic? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what we're doing. We're going through both in your physical body and your energetic fields. And as I mentioned, that's 1.8 from your body. So, and we're releasing that bound tension so your body can go back into parasympathetic rest. And I work directly with the nervous system, which runs along the spine. So we are working directly with recreating that state of homeostasis. And the thing I love about spinal energetics, and I love witnessing it in my clients, is because we are directly working with the body. We're not working with the mind. So we are working with that innate intelligence, and your body will show you what you're ready to release. It's not up for me or my client to make a decision. It's up for the body to say, this is what I'm ready to work through today. And it's amazing. Like, clients will start getting like dreams or flashbacks, and things start coming up. And I'm like, yeah, great. That's what you're ready to work through today. And it just is such evidence of this intricate energetic system that is beyond physical.
Yeah. 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 Incredible.
It's really powerful. And I know, like, for listeners out there that aren't aware of any of this, it might seem like a new way of healing. And I actually don't think it is. I actually think we're going back to like shamanism and
feels that way.
Indigenous practices. It's just we're putting different language on it. And I truly believe that in like 20 years, this is going to be a common way of healing. I don't think it's necessarily anything new. I really believe, and I think that as a society on a whole, that's what we're going back to, is how can we actually reconnect with those traditional cohesive practices in which we live in cohesion with the environment, the world around us.
Yeah, without interfering and interrupting with the natural. Yeah. A question that I wanted to ask you that I feel like my audience will appreciate. If you don't follow G on Instagram or haven't seen her content yet, there are some videos of her moving through these spinal energetic sessions with clients. And I feel like, my audience will appreciate me asking, like, what is happening? like there's that movement happening on the table, and like I've had that experience, so I understand. But yeah, how would you explain what is happening there in addition to what, like, if there was anything more to what you've just shared?
So I will say it kind of does look a little bit like an exorcism. Because
I feel like it looks like another way of explaining it is almost like a puppet dancing on strings, like, or like waves moving through the body.
I think a wave moving through the body is a much better way to describe it. And essentially what it is so we have these energetic lines through the body. We have our Pingala line, which is the sun energy, masculine. We have the lunar line, which is feminine, water. And then we have what is called your Shushuma. So that is the central line. And that is where your Shakti energy actually resides. And so what we're doing is, because we're working with the nervous system and your energetic bodies, is when the energy is not moving, it's stuck. And so we can't get those waves. So people will move up and down in a wave-like thing. And that is actually the free flow of energy. So that's what we're looking for. When we're connecting and we're releasing this bound tension, whether that be trauma, an emotion, a memory, you'll notice that that's when you see people shake. Mm-hmm. And there is that jolting. Mm-hmm. So that is the energy trying to move through the body. And then that invokes a trauma response, and so the closing of a trauma loop, and that allows that energy to go from being stagnant to being released back into whomever it is I'm working with energy field.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that explain that?
Yeah. And when you say it evokes, did you say it evokes a trauma response or a trauma experience? Tell me more.
So I should say it evokes the closing of a trauma response is better language for that, because what trauma is just an imprint that was created that hasn't been able to be closed. And so energetically, it kind of gets stuck on the loop. And so you will see animals in nature after they've been chased, they'll do the shaking, and in shamanic practices, you'll see a shamanic shake. And it is a way of allowing an experience that is become stagnant to go through the cycle that the trauma response or the stress needs to go through so that it can return to homeostasis.
Mm. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for explaining that. Yeah.
No problem at all. It's very, I get a lot of curiosity about what I'm doing. And the pulling the strings is something that I should also touch on, is because I'm connecting with different energetic points in the body. So different life experiences will be stored in different parts of the body. There's different kind of access points for whichever chakra I'm working on. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm connecting and accessing an energetic portal that is there. I'm connecting with that energy source, and then I'm moving it up through your different energy bodies to see where is this particular belief, memory, emotion, experience stored. And then when the body starts responding, I know that that is the energy body that we are working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It's so interesting. And what's amazing is when you start integrating people's life experience, because we work with the soul body, start connecting them back to their soul and their life purpose. And that's beautiful. That's really special.
One other question I had for you, we'll move towards finishing up, but I know you are running a retreat in Bali soon, upcoming. Very, very freaking exciting. And one of the things I've just noticed and some of the language around that is around reconnecting with the inner wild woman.
Yeah, completely. And it's something I'm so passionate about, right? As women, we have this incredible innate potential within us that's powerful, that's abundant, that's magnetic, that's creative, that's confident, that's in flow with our emotions, the cycles of nature. And we're so disconnected from that. And women are trying to conform to these boxes and ways of being that were never designed to fit them, right? And I myself domesticated myself for a very long time. And it's been a process of busting that open. And so throughout the experience, I'm sharing what I know and how to help women unlock their true wild woman, how to process their emotions, how to reconnect with creativity, fun, play, their cyclonic nature, so that they can really start carving out the life that they're choosing, you know? And it's because we don't need more women who are like, oh, I'm going to go put myself in this box because this is what society says.
Yeah.
Actually, you're not living in like unison with what is going to support you.
Mm-hmm.
We need more women who are breaking the molds, who are carving their own way out of life. And, you know, I see that in you, and something that I love about you and our friendship is just this deep commitment to your authentic expression of who you truly are as a woman. And I think as women, when we start to unlock that, we just start to step into a whole new level of embodiment, of power, of confidence. And we heal our bodies when we do that, right? Like it's a deep layer of that healing. And the great thing about Bali is that it's actually the home of the Earth's Kundalini energy. So the place where we are holding the experience couldn't be more perfect, right? Because we're going to co-create with the Earth Shakti. And so I'm so excited for that experience. And, you know, and I never thought that this is something that I would do. Like if you told me I'd be like running this kind of retreat in 2021 when I left my corporate role, trying to get out, you know?
Yeah.
Even when my intuition said, this is what we want you to do, I was like, you want me to do what?
I remember. It was big.
It was big. And, you know, when I looked into that, I was like, why am I being resistant to this? And I did come back to that. I'm a woman and we have been suppressed and burned and terrible things have happened to us for really stepping into this power, you know, and why was I scared to go there? And now I know that I have to. And when you start to connect with women and invite them to connect to what's already within them, it's just so beautiful to witness.
It's living.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Like not creating these like projections of yourself that you think are acceptable, right? It's actually like, no, this is who I am and I'm going to take up space for this. Yeah. I'm going to like stand here and I'm going to claim my space as a woman, and this is my expression of whom I am in the world.
Yeah, and that's allowed to feel uncertain and uncomfortable, and yet you still be so deeply rooted in this unquestionable knowing that it's right for you.
Absolutely. And I think it should feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Because then we're growing, we're evolving.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, you know, and I will awaken as many women as I can. But I'm like, wake up.
I've loved this conversation. I want to check in with you, my love. Is there anything else that you wanted to add or to bring?
No, I think that's it. Like, thank you for having me. It's been such an honor to be here. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram.
Yeah, share it. We'll put it all in the show notes. But yeah, what's your handle on Instagram?
3_Maiden, Maydn. I don't think I do have anything else.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. Such a fun conversation. It has flown, of course.
It's so quick.
And yeah, I just so appreciate you bringing your gift and your wisdom to this space and inviting so many women into even just like, whether it's the first layer or the 10th layer or they're in to, opening to these concepts and opening to these truths that are not what we're fed as the mainstream, not of doing non-living.
No, thank you. And like, I'm so proud of you and what you are creating. And it's such an honor to be here and share this with you and your community. And I just fucking love you. I'm so proud.
I love you too. Thank you for being here for this conversation, my love. If you would like more free resources, if you'd like to learn about my programs or coaching opportunities, you can find all of that information at my website, gemmahanley.com. I'll link it below in the show notes. And if you would like to connect daily, head over and find me on Instagram. My handle there is Gemma E. Hanley, and I reply to all of my DMs there personally. If you enjoyed this episode and found it valuable, please share it with someone. You never know who needs to hear one little thing to take their day from feeling stuck and heavy to light and free. See you on the next one.